getting glare from
Okay, so Crystal, could you begin to tell your story of your involvement in the civil rights movement here in Kingston, New York?
Yes, I can. My name is Crystal Goodman. I've been a Kingstonian all of my life. Was born right at Benedictine Hospital, which is right down the street. My first year in high school, very excited to go here at Kingston High School. And the very first year, I had a counselor that would tell me there was only certain things I could do when I graduated. And it really bothered me because I know in America you can be whatever you want to be. And what was interesting is that she always told these to African American students, but not to our white counterparts. And I always remember that being an issue. So the one day I came to school and there was more than 30 African American students sitting on these stairs. And they said why they were there, and then I sat down with them. And the reason they were there, because they were protesting that the school would continue to have this counselor here counseling students, and we wanted her to leave or be fired. So they said, well, you can protest. Even though it was a peaceful protest, again, we were all seated down here on the stairs. They said that we must cease and desist and continue our studies to go to school. We refused. And so the cops came and brought us all the way down to the police station, which was downtown. And we were all arrested, but we weren't actually in cells. We were actually in this big room. I remember that because I remember my fellow students being in this room. We were not in cells, but I do remember being fingerprinted because I had never had that happen before as a kid.
Being what?
Fingerprinted, which actually was just, we come to find out after all that time, but I'll hold that for the end of my story.
Okay.
So I called my mom. We were there for probably a couple hours in the afternoon, and called my mom. She thought, what are you doing? I told her why I was doing it, and I remember her saying specifically, well, when you're right, you're right. And we were right. And again, it was a nonviolent protest. It was really a sit-in.
Here on the steps
Here on the steps of Kingston High School. And so what happened after that is my mom came to pick me up. My brother was with her. And when we got back to school, and all of us were suspended basically for that week, we returned to school. And we did find out that after an investigation, that particular counselor was fired for what she had done. And then I did find out years later they did not keep any of the records. There's no records on file of us being arrested. So I think one of the things they were trying to do was say, hey, listen, if you break the law, we're going to fingerprint you. And it was a scary thing to walk through. But I do know that as a fact, that there's no records on file of that. So I don't know what they did with the fingerprints. They must have thrown them out, perhaps. But it was really a wonderful experience. And the fact that was able to be accomplished in a non-violent sit-in. And the results of that is that this lady was dismissed because of investigation that was proven that it was consistent for the advice she was giving us, the African-American students in the school, compared to the advice that she was giving our white counterparts. And that's my story.
So the advice she was giving was that you could not aim too high.
You could not aim too high. Your ceiling was here.
College,
so
university.
You couldn't go to college. She was suggesting that you do more menial labor works, and that was her suggestion for basically all of us. So you couldn't be a doctor. You couldn't be a nurse. You could not excel in America. So there was a glass ceiling that she really advised us on.
And so how many students would you say were sitting on these steps that you joined?
Probably 30. 30, yeah, probably 30, maybe 30 plus students. That were sitting here. And they were not just from the first year of school, because this was 4 years. So they were from that years, but they were for prior years for students that had come back and said, oh, I see what's going on here. Because they, before they graduated, had the same experience. So there was the 30 to 40 African-American students that made up that body and that sit-in.
How did you find the courage to do that? I mean, to join them? You felt it was right? It was the right thing?
I did. I felt like it was the right thing because, again, she had given me the similar advice that she had given me, given my others, colleagues in this student body. So I felt that it was the right thing to do because this is America and we can be whoever we want to be in America. And I was taught that as a child. You can be whatever you want to be.
Yeah.
And she was saying, no, you can't. And I thought that did not sound right to me. And once I spoke to the students that were here and they said why they were doing a sit-in, what the reason being, and I was in full agreement with that. And again, it was nonviolent.
Right.
And I was in full agreement of that. Yes, that's the reason I did it, because it was the right thing. I felt it was the right thing to do.
And what was the year again? Would have been,
I want to say,
more or less?
In the early 70s. I'm just going to say in the early 70s because I can't remember specifically.
Okay.
But yeah, it was in the early 70s, my first year here.
And did you feel any Christian, gospel-oriented support, inspiration for doing that? Do you feel you were doing the right thing as a Christian, as a follower of Jesus, who got into a lot of trouble himself for speaking the truth?
At the time, I wasn't following the Lord. I was going to church occasionally. My mom she was following the Lord. I was not, has per se, but she always taught me right and wrong. And I was raised as a Catholic, so I knew there was right and wrong. And this was wrong. So that spiritual base was there because I had a spiritual foundation being raised as a Catholic. So that was, I knew right from wrong. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. Crystal, congratulations. Thanks for doing that and for sharing your story.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Glad to share it.
Great. Terrific.
Thank you so much.
Great.